Welcome to Healthy Hearing Loss. My name is Dee Dee. Today we're going to talk about hearing loss being invisible. I'm only going to assume that you're here because you have hearing loss or you know somebody else that has hearing loss and you're just curious about their hearing loss and what you can learn to help communicate better with them or something. But in this video, I'm going to refer to you as the person that has hearing loss, and you can always change that person to the person, other person, or yourself, whatever. But I'll refer to you for now. I have several questions that I want to ask you. The first question I have is, what caused your hearing loss? Maybe it was cholesteatoma, Meniere's, ototoxic medication, loud noise, acoustic neuroma, presbycusis, enlarged vestibular aqueduct. You were born with it, likely inherited, physical head injury, autoimmune disorder of the inner ear, and so forth. So what caused your hearing loss? What was that condition? Go ahead and leave it in the comment below. For all those conditions that I mentioned, do you think people can see that condition? Like for me, I have enlarged vestibular aqueduct, which is EVA. That's the abbreviated form. And that involves a loop off of the cochlea, which is deep inside my inner ear, encased with my skull, so nobody can really see that, and it's basically now a hidden condition, which makes it invisible. Now maybe you have a scar in the back of your head and you wear your hair up and people can see that scar. People aren't going to know that that was surgery to the ear itself. They might have thought that maybe you got hit there and had a laceration and you got some sutures in there and stuff like that. So they're not going to really know that you had ear surgery and that you have some sort of hearing loss with it. So it's still an invisible scar, if you will. So now that we know what our condition is that caused our hearing loss, when we look at the community's definition of hearing loss, they call it a disability. And I know that some people are offended by that word disability. For example, the deaf culture do not think of themselves as a disabled person because they never lost anything and their deafness is their identity. So they don't think of it as a disability. They take offense to that. But because I'm referring more towards hard of hearing and hearing loss, that I wanted to look up disabled, and I want to show you some definitions that I found on the web. So the first definition I found was the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, and this one says, a disability is a condition of the body or mind impairment that makes it more difficult for people with the condition to do certain activities, activity limitation, and interact with the world around them, participation restrictions. While there could be a condition rather than a disability, right? Okay, let's get on to the next definition. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. A physical, mental, cognitive, or developmental condition that impairs, interferes with, or limits a person's ability to engage in certain tasks or actions or participate in typical daily activities and interactions. I don't know about you, but the word limits makes me cringe. All right, one more definition. The American Disability Act defines a person with a disability as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. With that definition from ADA, the American Disability Act, I think that's more of a legal definition versus a medical definition. If I were going to apply for disability, to get an income or something, then I might refer to that particular definition. But for this video, I'm more thinking about the medical aspect of the condition you have. So I'm going to throw that definition right out. Now, if you look back at those definitions and you think about yourself, what resonates with you? Which one of those definitions resonates with you? Now, I don't think myself as a disabled person because I don't want to think that I'm limited to doing things I want, right? However, I have to be honest and logical and realistic that there are some educational criteria to getting accepted into a certain field or employment that have, eligibility criteria that you have to meet in order to enter that particular employment. Now, an example I will give is that I wanted to go into the military. You can't have hearing loss in the military, so that was X'd out. That one off to the side. But I also wanted to be a firefighter. And they have a criteria list of things that you have to successfully meet before you can become a firefighter, and hearing loss is one of those things that kept me from being a firefighter. But I will tell you that it didn't stop me from looking for other options. What else was out there for me to challenge and be able to employ myself into? So I went on to the next best thing that was sort of in that kind of general field, if you will, right? So for me, I decided that I was going to try emergency medical services, EMS. I went ahead and got my emergency medical technician and then advanced my training into become a paramedic, and I absolutely loved that job. That job was like one of my favorite jobs ever. All right, so there's another definition that I want to talk about, and it's used in the community, and that is impairment. Like hearing loss is an impairment, right? You know, they'll say hearing impaired or something like that. And I know that some people take offense to that too because they don't think they're impaired. But let me show you this definition. Now, here's the definition from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And it says, the act of impairing something or the state or condition of being impaired, diminish or loss of function or ability. I'm not exactly offended by that word, by impairment, because the condition I have within my ears did cause hearing loss and impair it. So essentially, I am hearing impaired due to a condition. If you were to call me hearing impaired, I mean, I wouldn't like punch you or anything or get pissed off, but I'm not entirely like, yeah, use it on me every time. No, I'd rather be preferred to as hard of hearing or a person with hearing loss or even deaf without my hearing aid. Because I can't hear anything when I don't have my hearing aids. I am deaf. Tell me what your thoughts are. Put them in the comments below. And the reason why I wanted to talk about those terms and have you think about those questions is because that's going to help us understand this whole invisibility thing with hearing loss. And hearing loss is basically a hidden condition that is not immediately apparent to those around us. If somebody were to look at you, they would not see that you were somebody with hearing loss because they can't see it unless you have your hearing aids out blaring. Let's move on because I have some stuff to talk about. When it comes to having this invisible condition, any term I'm using condition because I like condition. I don't like impairment and I don't like disability, but I wouldn't be super offended if somebody called me that because I don't know. I'm just not that type of person. But I'm going to use condition for myself. The thing about invisible hearing loss or somebody who has hearing loss that's invisible is that people can't see it. So when you don't hear them, they think you're either rude or they think you're arrogant or they think you're ignoring them. And those things, none of those things are true most of the time, right? I do have selective hearing because if my hearing is tired and I just have that hearing fatigue, I just sometimes will select important things to listen to. Although everything's important, but I become selective in what I need to hear so that I can reserve some of my energy. This leads to the next word that I absolutely do not and could care less for is stigma. I do not like that word. And I'm not entirely sure a lot of people even like that word. But the stigma around hearing loss has caused some issues for me and probably you and many other people who are hard of hearing, deaf, or hearing impaired. And I don't know, I don't want to use those words. And I asked myself, and I hope you asked yourself this too, is how do we eradicate stigma? I don't know about you, but hearing loss sometimes is related to dumb, stupid, not competent, broken. None of that's true. But that's what's linked to stigma. And that's why I don't like it. So how do we eradicate it? Let's get to it. Courage. First thing starts with us, right? Change your narrative about yourself. And what I mean by that is you need to accept your hearing loss as it is and as your identity. Because once you own it and you know who you are, you have no problem trying to figure out ways to get rid of stigma. And how can we do that? We have to talk about it. Talk to your families, your friends, your coworkers. Those are the most important people in your life that you need to talk about your hearing loss with. That way they understand how you hear, and then you can start to talk about how they can communicate with you. The next thing we need to look at is educating the community. The community might be a little educated, but there are many people out there that are not educated on hearing loss and how it presents some challenges for us. Beyond just educating, we can actually show it off, right? Take your hearing aid, and we have people out there put all those bling blings on it and just bling it up and make it really colorful and shiny. Like my hearing aid, actually, I think this one's sort of the same color as my hair. It was the one that I picked at the time. I don't know why I picked it. My last hearing aid was silver, so they were very bright. So you need to show off your hearing aid, because when people see hearing aids, then they're like, oh, they have hearing loss. Fun fact. My husband told me the other day that before he met me, he thought that when somebody had hearing loss and they went ahead and got hearing aids, they were fixed and they were hearing again. Pretty funny, huh? It wasn't until he started to live with me that he actually understood that is a bigger picture to hearing loss. And that's where we come in. We need to educate. We need to bling it. Once we get through all those little hoops, then we have to ask for accommodations. Hearing aids doesn't do it all for us, and we all know that. Hearing aid is not a fix for all thing. We need to get accommodations to help us understand the world around us. Like, we have to have somebody facing us, we need to read lips, we need facial expressions, we need body movements, we need closed captioning. There's a lot of things we need, and we need to ask for those accommodations. It's our right to be able to understand the world around us. And when we do these accommodations and we add it to our way of communicating, it improves our quality of life. But you know what? Best practices is what works best for you. And what works for you may be totally different for me. The next thing is challenge myself. I'm referring to me here because I love challenges. I love being able to find obstacles. Like, you have all these little obstacles everywhere and you try to find ways to get around all those obstacles. It's different than a barrier. A barrier is something that completely stops you from getting something that you want. Like, my barrier is that I couldn't get into the military or be a firefighter. But then I saw all those obstacles, so how I can get around and get into the EMS world, spot on, I got in. And I loved every minute of it. But the challenge was there to do it and prove myself that I could do it. Now, I had to have confidence to be able to go forth and do that and to go around those obstacles. That's different than being arrogant or egotistic. It means that you are able to go out there and stay confident and just get around those barriers. And the difference between confidence and arrogance, which is huge, is arrogance is that you think you know everything and you leave no room for what you don't know. But if you have confidence, then you go up to your obstacle and you learn what you don't know, and then you figure out ways how to get around it, and then you know. But then the next obstacle of what you don't know. So it's important to challenge yourself to go forth and get the things that you want. We're not limited to everything. Accepting that we can't do something just because somebody said it is something that we have to work on. I had to work on that. Thank gosh I had somebody that told me, my mother told me, that you can do anything you put your mind to. And it's true, you really can. So you can do that. Just get out there and do what you want. Go out there and get what you want. Be the best version of yourself. Now, when I think about challenges, there's so many challenges out there, right? You have to have people that look at you, view you, learn about your hearing loss, accept you. That's a challenge, right? But the more we educate, the more we repeat ourselves, then we are able to get people to kind of make it their norm. It's like, okay, that's normal for somebody to have hearing loss and they need all those accommodations. But I wanted to talk about a toolbox. So you think about, you have a box, you open up the cover and you look in there and you see all those communication strategies that you have for yourself, and you put them all in a box and you open it up and you explain to people what's in my box. This is everything that works for me. These are my tools that I need to be able to understand you and everybody around me. So the toolbox is really, really important. It's yours. You have to own it. And the fun thing to talk about with this toolbox is that I recently went to the AMPO conference, and it's the Association for Medical Professionals for Hearing Loss. It was very, very cool and awesome. So if you're in the medical field and you have hearing loss, go check out that website. There's a conference next year, somewhere in August 2022, I think. Be sure to check that out. Learn all about it and get involved. There was a presenter there that said something. I think her name was Tina Childress or something like that. But what she said said is to come up with an elevator speech. So with your toolbox, with the cover on it, have a little script on top. That's your elevator script, right? Or your elevator speech. And it's really something that you say within like 30 seconds. Like you're in the elevator, you have 30 seconds to spill out your guts and tell somebody who you are and what about your hearing loss. And that's what you're going to put on top of your toolbox. The thing about having an elevator speech, something like that, is that you'll be able to repeat it easily over and over again, because that's the thing about educating the community, your family, your friends, your coworkers, that is a repetition. You have to repeat it over and over again in order for it to sink in and realize that this is the norm for this person, whether it's you or myself, and this is how I have to communicate with them. You know, hearing loss is a hard thing to navigate and live with, but you know what? At the same time, it's us, it's our identity. We're a beautiful person. It's a beautiful thing. As long as we can accept ourselves and that we can show off our hearing and eradicate stigma by getting it more exposed out there and letting people know that, no, we're not dumb, stupid, broken, not competent, those things. No, we're not. We're all intelligent people, and just we need more experience out there. So those are the things I wanted to cover for this particular video. I hope you found it interesting. Go ahead and hit that like button and hit subscribe if you like, and hit the bell notification so that you know about my next videos coming up. Okay, take care. Bye.